thank you all for being present with us to consider the nominees for the VA's Undersecretary for Health and the Department of Labor's Assistant Secretary for Veterans Employment and Training. Making certain that veterans can access timely, high-quality health care as well as meaningful and gainful employment when they are separated from the military service are two of the highest priorities this committee has, and certainly something that's important to our grateful nation. In many ways, VA's Undersecretary for Health and DOL's Assistant Secretary for Veterans Employment and Training bear the bulk of the responsibilities for meeting these missions. I'm grateful to have the two dedicated public servants, John Bartram and Jeremiah Workman, before us today as the nominees for these two important positions. While progress has been made to improve access to health care and high-paying jobs, far too many veterans in Kansas and across the country continue to struggle to take full advantage of their earned benefits from the VA and the Department of Labor. Mr. Bartram is a Major General in the Air Force Reserve, and Mr. Workman, a decorated Marine veteran. They know these struggles well. And they are both eager to make it easier for their fellow veterans to thrive in the civilian lives. I look forward to hearing their plans and priorities, and I appreciate both nominees and their family members for being with us today and their willingness to take on these critical roles if confirmed. With that, I yield to the ranking member, Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for your service to our country and for your willingness now to serve our veterans. We're going to talk today about your qualifications and your vision for your responsibilities and the roles that you've been nominated for. But first of all, I think we ought to talk about the factual background to your nominations. Let me ask, Mr. Chairman, that 4 articles be entered into the record. Facing painful cuts, the VA reported dubious savings from the New York Times. Profound alarm, U.S. Veterans Agency worldwide fight over anti-discrimination provisions from The Guardian. Internal Veterans Affairs memo shows plan to scrutinize disability work from home accommodations from government executive. And finally, VA loses 7,500 employees in veteran-facing roles as part of workforce cuts from the Federal News Network.
Without objection.
Thank you. The Federal News Network article published yesterday highlights the loss of 1,720 registered nurses, 600 doctors, 1,150 medical support assistants, and close to 200 police officers, 80 psychologists, and 1,100 claims examiners. According to the New York Times investigation, while the VA is claiming these cruel cuts are saving taxpayer dollars, contract terminations and employees firing actually resulted in an estimate of 25% increase in VA spending compared to last year. 25% higher spending because of these cuts. Something's wrong with this picture. Over the same period of time last year, the Biden administration had a net increase of 3,200 registered nurses, 232 doctors, 1,570 medical support assistants, 191 police officers, and 1,484 claims examiners. I've insisted on regular order for the VA nominees so the Senate can have appropriate and necessary debate on the floor about people nominated to lead the VA. And Mr. Bartram, you've been there from the beginning of this administration. You've been a senior advisor to Secretary Collins since day one and presumably involved in these decisions in some way or another. The VA announced recently it's abandoning the Secretary's disastrous plan to fire 8,300 employees. 83,000, thank you. Thank you, Senator King. 83,000, emphasizing how many there are. That is a reversal of position due to forceful opposition from members of Congress, but even more importantly, veterans and VSOs. And alarmingly, the VA is poised to lose instead 30,000 employees by the end of this year, along with 40,000 pre-existing vacancies, with no intention of backfilling those positions. At least one VA facility recently had 50 mental health providers leave due to toxic work conditions created by the administration. Secretary Collins says this will have no effect on veterans' health care. With all due respect, I think that contention is simply false. Despite the valiant efforts of frontline VA employees across the country who are spread dangerously thin, the loss of dedicated workers in that magnitude cannot help but impact VA healthcare. All this has happened, Mr. Bartram, again, while you have been working as a senior advisor to Secretary Collins, and that's why I think we deserve to know what else you have planned if you are confirmed at VHA. Mr. Workman, if confirmed, you'll be leading the Department of Labor, Veterans Employment and Training Division, and as you know from your own personal experience, that transition from active duty to civilian life can be extraordinarily challenging. You've experienced it, and right now, again, I'm afraid due to the Trump administration's action, veterans are unemployed at rates not seen since the height of the COVID pandemic. The veteran unemployment rate is up almost a full percentage point since this time last year. That's about 62,000 additional unemployed veterans. Employment is a huge factor in determining veterans' mental health. If you can't work, we all know veterans want to work, their mental health suffers. And so your responsibility is supremely important at this moment in our history. Our veterans have earned, and they deserve, the best health care and the best employment opportunities that we can possibly provide. And I am sure that I speak for all the members of this committee in saying we're going to continue to fight for both. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before being recognized for your opening statements, would you please stand and raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give before the United States Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Mr. Bartram, you are now recognized for 5 minutes. Welcome.
Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Blumenthal, distinguished members of the committee, I'm honored to be nominated for the Undersecretary of Health at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I thank this committee, the President, Secretary Collins for their confidence, and I'm grateful for the support of my lovely wife, who's Elizabeth, who's behind me, and our 2 twin daughters who couldn't be here today. I also want to acknowledge my family, friends, fellow veterans, and military brothers and sisters who are watching and providing support from across the country. As a 16-year-old living on my own after my father passed away in 6th grade, I never imagined this moment. Growing up fatherless presents significant challenges. My military service changed everything. Upon high school graduation, I enlisted in the Air Force, which trained me, allowed me to mature as a leader, pay for college, and opened up the American dream for me. Statistically speaking, my life should have been very different. This decision to enlist led to over 40 years of military service that I'm still serving in. I went from E1 Airman Basic to the rank of Major General, and I currently serve as the Mobility Assistant to the Air and Space Force Surgeon General. I'm the most senior Medical Service Corps hospital executive in the Air Force, period. I am the most senior medical officer position in the Air Force Reserve. My experience in the military taught me that statistics may be predictive, but American opportunity can override any predetermined path. Despite my early childhood challenges, I earned an undergraduate degree in business administration from McKendree University, degrees in bioenvironmental engineering and survival and rescue operations, and eventually an MBA from Southern Illinois University and a law degree from George Mason University, and I might add, all at night school. In addition, I was trained by the Air Force to be a hospital administrator. My background demonstrates my qualifications for the Undersecretary of Health position. This includes extensive healthcare executive leadership experience with multi-billion-dollar healthcare systems. In my position in the Air Force Surgeon General's office, I assist in the leadership of a $6.1 billion healthcare system involving 44,000 personnel integrated healthcare delivery system serving 2.6 million beneficiaries at 76 locations worldwide. I'm a combat veteran. I have been mobilized multiple times, Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the COVID response. I served as the Associate Director of the National Institutes of Health. During COVID, when I was mobilized, I was one of the key people who developed the concept of what became known as warp speed. I'm not as creative as coming up with the name warp speed, so I originally called it the Manhattan Project. But others came up with a better name. In that role, I was the deputy for the entire government response for Emergency Support Function 8, so the operations manager for all the health operations for the country, leading DoD teams, HHS teams, FEMA teams, VA teams, and public health service teams, as well as working with the state's governors and FEMA response team. As a former House Appropriations Committee professional staff member, I oversaw the policy and funding for major health agencies, including NIH, CMS, and CDC, to name a few. Furthermore, I previously worked in the Department of Veterans Affairs and in the Office of Management and Budget on VA and defense health policy and financing matters. The Veterans Healthcare System exclusively serves millions of veterans nationwide with critical health care they earned from military service. It operates over 1,200 healthcare facilities nationwide, including medical centers, community-based outpatient clinics, and specialized care facilities to serve approximately 9 million eligible veterans annually. If confirmed, I will work to enhance healthcare delivery standards with greater consistency, continue VA's focus on patient safety and quality improvement while balancing access and improved outcomes, continue to support medical research on veterans issues, its medical education programs, and enhance VA's mission to assist our nation during emergencies and disasters as they did in COVID. Military service is more than a job. As you all know, it's an act of selflessness and dedication to ensure all of us can enjoy the freedom of democracy. The military service of my father, my brother, my grandfather, my military brothers and sisters who've served before me, who served with me, and those who will serve after me, have taught me that we owe veterans more than gratitude. We owe them excellence. I welcome your questions, and if confirmed, I look forward to working with this committee to fulfill our sacred obligation to those who have served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bartram. I recognize Senator Sheehy for the introduction of Mr. Workman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Blumenthal, thank you for the opportunity to introduce and the honor to introduce a great American like Jeremiah Workman. I also want to thank President Trump and Secretary Chavez-Arima for nominating a combat veteran and decorated hero for such an important position for our veteran community. Indeed, our nation is stronger when we have battlefield experience serving in senior levels of our republic. And most importantly, Jeremiah, thank you to you and your family for not only your service up to now, but your willingness to serve yet again. As a fellow combat veteran, married to a combat veteran, also a Marine, unfortunately, you guys, I can't ever get away from you guys. I not only understand the depth of your sacrifice, I also understand the value of your perspective as we seek to reorient our government towards common sense. Jeremiah joined the Marine Corps while still in high school and went on to serve in combat at some of the fiercest fighting our nation has seen in a generation, fighting in battles across Iraq, including in one of our bloodiest battlefields, Fallujah. But Jeremiah didn't just serve and survive in these firefights. He led through them and fought like a lion. On one fateful day, as he led his Marines on patrol, they fought through a vicious ambush, confronting a numerically superior force of well-armed, suicidal insurgents who were ready to trade their lives for martyrdom. Jeremiah decided he could help them do just that. He fought with a ferocity only a few who have been under fire can understand. His bravery that day earned him the Navy Cross and a place of eternal honor in the halls of Marine Corps lore. Since leaving active duty, instead of living off of the accolades of his former life and his achievements, which he is quite capable of and frankly entitled to do, he recommitted himself to service and has worked tirelessly to advocate for veteran work programs that improve transition success for our heroes. He also helped remind America that veterans are a superpower for our labor force. They just need the opportunity to show what they can do. Jeremiah's work is not focused on veteran handouts or benefit programs. It is focused on empowering our former servicemen and women to achieve new heights after their time in uniform. In an era when only 1% of Americans have served in combat, much of our nation is quick to victimize our veterans and treat them like damaged goods, who, when they come home, need a warm blanket and handouts. This couldn't be further from the truth, and it's a corrosive narrative that our veteran community must stop on their own. We are veterans, not victims. Veterans, not victims. Veterans join the service because they believe in the mission and they love their country. That mission and purpose don't end when they take the uniform off. In fact, as Jeremiah has shown us, that is just the beginning. We must resist the urge to coddle our veterans and instead help them launch a new chapter in their lives, chapters of achievement, excellence, and renewed service and mission. Jeremiah has done that himself. He has helped other veterans do that, and now we'll help the entire nation do that. America is lucky to have men like Jeremiah on the battlefield, and now we will be lucky to have him as a leader in our government. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Sheehy, thank you for your introduction, and Mr. Workman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Senator Sheehy, for the introduction. Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Blumenthal, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am honored and humbled to be considered for the role of Assistant Secretary of Labor for Veterans Employment and Training Service. This nomination is a call to serve those who have served us all. I am grateful to President Donald Trump for nominating me to serve in this role. He has demonstrated an unrelenting support for our military and veterans, placing a renewed national focus on honoring their service and expanding their opportunities after they leave the uniform behind. I would also like to thank Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer and Deputy Secretary Keith Sonderling for their leadership and support of my nomination. I especially would like to take a moment to thank someone very important to me, my wife, Jessica. Jessica and I have been together since high school. She is the mother of our two incredible children, Devin and Delaney, and all three are here in support today. Throughout my military career, through my deployment, injury, reintegration, Jessica has been a constant source of strength, grace, and resilience. They say the toughest job in the military is that of a military spouse. And Jessica has fulfilled that role with a quiet determination that has shaped the man I am today. Jessica, thank you. You are my rock. Public service has long been a part of my family's story. My grandfather served in World War II. My dad is a United States Army veteran. For me, the decision to serve came early. I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. On the morning of September 11, 2001, I was in a barber shop at Parris Island. A few years later, in December of 2004, I was deployed with a team of Marines in Fallujah, Iraq, as part of Operation Phantom Fury. Our mission was going house to house, clearing insurgents in one of the fiercest urban battles of the Iraq War. During one operation, we engaged more than 24 insurgents fortified inside a safe house. The details of that day are well documented, and I won't recount them all here, but I will say this: the bravery and the sacrifice I witnessed from my fellow Marines that day continue to inspire my life's work. Since leaving active duty, I've committed myself to serving veterans. Through my work with the Wounded Warrior Regiment, the VA, the private sector, I've always had the same focus, making sure veterans didn't fall through the cracks. I've seen how powerful the right support at the right time can be, and I've seen what happens when we fail to deliver. As a Marine combat veteran, I've experienced firsthand both the immense pride of military service and the complex challenges of transitioning back into civilian life. I've also seen the untapped potential that every veteran carries with them after service. Our nation owes these men and women more than gratitude. We owe them an opportunity, dignity, and a pathway to purpose post-service. If confirmed, I will lead the Veterans Employment and Training Service with that mission at its core, to empower every transitioning service member, veteran, and military spouse with the tools they need to succeed in the workforce and in life. Regardless of the length of their service, they deserve the chance to build a meaningful, fulfilling civilian career. If confirmed, every decision we make at VETS will start with one question: what does this mean for the veteran? That will be our guiding principle. I will lead with urgency, compassion, and accountability. We will work to strengthen our programs, improve interagency coordination, and embrace innovation, from digital training platforms to expanded employer partnerships. Our focus will be on the outcomes that matter: quality jobs, long-term careers, and the dignity that comes with meaningful work. We will ensure that veterans are not only welcomed into the workforce, but they are prepared, empowered, recruited, and valued. This is the greatest professional honor of my life, and I am ready to continue my service to our great country. Thank you again for your time and consideration. I respectfully ask for your support of my nomination, and I look forward to your questions.
Mr. Workman, Mr. Bartram, thank you both for your presence here, and more importantly, thank you for your service as outlined by you and by Senator Shahee. Thanks for protecting and serving our nation. Mr. Bartram, in response, and I want to tell you that how you respond to this question is really important to me. This is not a throwaway question in any way. In response to your pre-hearing questions, you referenced having, quote, an opportunity to revisit the balance of direct care and community care, end quote. In my view, that balance belongs with the veteran. The veteran gets to decide under the eligibility criteria established by Congress in the Mission Act. And it's the VA's responsibility to work continuously to make certain that eligible veterans can freely choose between high-performing VA direct care and high-functioning VA community care. Do you agree? Why or why not? Would you explain your view on this topic?
I fully agree with you. It is the veteran's choice on how we work to balance that care. Right now, the bureaucratic process that has been put in place before this administration takes an enormous amount of time, and it takes a lot of hoops for a veteran to get community care. One of the things that you did is you passed the best medical interest, and we implemented that. And in the policy statement that Secretary Collins put when he implemented it, part of his words were, we don't need a congressional law to tell us to do what's common sense. And what's common sense is that if the doctor and the veteran decide that they need to have a referral to community care, that the referral to community care should occur, and it doesn't take another doctor or another technician or somebody else to review it. It's just like it is in your private sector. When you and your doctor decide you need a referral and you need to go somewhere, then you get the referral and you go. So that has been implemented. Those are the things that I'm talking about on balancing the community care with the direct care. If you think about our healthcare system in the VA, when I worked for the VA years ago, we were essentially a single engine motor. We had one cylinder and it was direct care. We now have community care, referral care, whatever you'd like to refer to it, and we have direct care. And we need to balance those care activities for our veterans based on our veterans. In the VA, there's things that we do that veterans want to keep coming back and using us over and over, especially if they live within the area where they can get to us. If they don't live within that area, they need to be able to use community care without jumping through 1,000 hoops. But if they want to use our prosthetic care, which I would argue is second to none, or some of our primary health mental care, or some of our primary care, and they live in that area, they should be able to do that and have the choice to do that. But if they need to use while they're in that area based on a referral because we don't have the specialty care, they should be able to get the specialty care that they need where they need it. So that's what I say when we need to balance it. It's form and function, sir. It's structure. It's basic, leadership 101. And having been a leader in both the civil service side as an SES and on the military side as a general officer, that's what I intend to do, is to lead the organization, to look at the processes and how to better affect the veterans' patient outcome.
When you say balance or rebalance, it's based upon, I'm paraphrasing or telling you what I heard from your answer. It's based upon the best interest of the veteran, not any other criteria.
Yes, sir. It's the best interest of the veteran and what the law allows us to do.
Yeah, there is the law, thank you. Mr. Bartram, over the past 5 years, we've seen a major swing in VA workforce from a record hiring in 22 and 23 to a planned decrease of 10,000 employees in 24, and now further reductions in the overall workforce this year. There has not been a VA staffing strategy in recent history that takes a long-term view, despite the necessity of high-performing workforce for the delivery of timely, high-quality care. If confirmed, what data points and trends will you look at to determine the VHA's workforce needs? What are your goals when it comes to the VHA workforce? And how will you work with this committee to develop a coherent and sustainable VHA staffing strategy moving forward and longer term?
And that's a great question, sir, and I really appreciate that. Is on the strategy of the workforce, as you know, VA has about 470,000 employees, and about 350,000 of those are at VA healthcare facilities facing the healthcare, the veterans and providing care at the veterans. And most of those 350,000 were exempt from the hiring freeze that Ranking Member Blumenthal had identified early on in the discussion. But one of the things that I've committed to working with, and I'd love to work with your staff on it once I'm confirmed, or if I'm confirmed, is also with the our HR Assistant Secretary, Mark Engelbaum, on setting up a workforce structure with manning documents so that we understand what positions and what manning documents you should have, and setting up standard staffing models so that we understand how many staff you need for certain types of activities. We don't have good staffing models in the VA. And the way when I've looked at some of the numbers, and I'm only a senior advisor, so I don't dig into all the different things every day at VHA, but when you look at some of the different numbers on their staffing model, it's not a consistent staffing model. You have inconsistent number of staffing in certain areas and not in others, and we need to normalize that across the platform. So I look forward to working with you and the staff and with my other colleagues at VA to set up staffing models to ensure that we're looking at that to make sure that we're getting the throughput on patient output, and we're getting the service that we need. But what I would want to say is that with all the hiring that went on during the Biden administration, there were between 2021 and 2024, there were over 52,000 full-time equivalents. But what happened during that time? The wait times didn't improve. The wait time for primary care rose from 15.7 days to 24.3. The wait time for mental health rose from 14.7 to 20.4. The wait times for for specialty care went from 24 to 38 days. So the measures that I'm going to look at are what is our access and what are the things that we're doing to improve access. And I see my time's up, so I'll end.
I too see that my time is up. Mr. Workman, I'll come back to you at the next opportunity, and I recognize Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. As senior advisor to Secretary Collins, Mr. Bartram, were you involved in the decision to fire 83,000 VA employees?
Was I involved in the decision to fire 82,000 employees? No.
Were you involved in the decision to change that number to 30,000?
No.
Have you been involved in any workforce decisions previously relating to health care?
I'm not involved in any of the HR decisions that come out of the HR side of
Are you
VHA.
alarmed by the numbers that I gave you as to the 1,720 registered nurses, nearly 600 physicians, frontline doctors, nurses, psychologists, police officers leaving as a result of the resignations, firings, hiring freezes, just so far?
So what I would say is that I'm not aware of any firings. There have been
Well, are
forced
you alarmed by those numbers?
But there are forced restructuring tools out there, but there's also numbers of people that change in the system. And in our system every year, we have about 40,000 people turnover in our system every year. So in a system where you have 470,000 people, I'm not alarmed by a shift of 500 or 700 or 7,500, because in systems as big, you have natural changeover. What I can say is that what I have seen in the VA is that our employees tend to stay longer, and we tend to recruit well. So,
Are you aware that the loss of those thousands of staff have an effect on VA healthcare? Those numbers are not business as usual. I gave you the numbers for the similar period under the Biden administration. Even at the beginning of this fiscal year, there were 40,000 vacancies. Wouldn't you say that VA healthcare is in jeopardy as a result of the numbers of employees already lost even before the 30,000 that are planned by the end of the year?
so what I'd also say is that what you may not have seen is that we've made changes to our system that have enhanced our ability to provide access and our ability to provide care.
So you're not alarmed?
So the expanding electronic scheduling system, which in the past, one person would schedule for the community care process, would schedule, and these are generally nurses, would schedule 5 to 7 patients a day. By expanding out the what's called the EPS, the electronic scheduling process, we're now doing 20 to 24 on average per scheduler. So it expands access and it
I'm going
expands
to
our
interrupt you
ability
because
for
my
nurses.
time is
Yes, sir.
limited, Mr. Bartram.
Yep.
You're talking to me about maybe doing scheduling more efficiently. You're not talking about doctors, nurses, police, janitors. You and I talked. They're all part of the team. You've got to have a team. Are you, in your role as senior advisor, were you involved in the cancellation of contracts?
I was involved in review of contracts that the career officials would recommend for rescoping, descoping, or in some cases, cancellation.
What's the answer to that question? Yes or no?
Yes.
You were involved? Yes. Okay. Can you give me a number of contracts that have been canceled?
No, I can't give you a number of contracts that have been canceled, but what I can say is I can get back to you for the record. I know that we have.
Well, we've heard that again and again and again and again. You'll get back to us. We've heard it from nominees. We've heard it from the secretary. Information has been provided. It's incomplete. It's wrong. We're asking for basic transparency and disclosure here that we have a right to see, veterans have a right to see, the public has a right to see. Let me ask you, do you have information about the wait times for community care? When veterans choose that option, do you have data about the wait times for community care?
Yes, I do have some information. I'm not locating my page on that, sir, if I find it, but I can get back to you. But what I can say is that in our wait times, we have seen improvements in certain areas of wait times.
Well, that's one, we've asked for this data repeatedly. I'm not surprised you can't find it in your notebook there, or maybe I should say, if you found it, it should have been provided to us long before now because we've requested it repeatedly. So you can get back to me if you'd like. I welcome your willingness to do so. But again, the reason why we have, in effect, asked for the regular order on these nominees is This kind of data simply hasn't been provided. My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. I hope that we'll have time for additional questions.
Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for both of you being here. Look forward to supporting you both. Mr. Bartram, one of the biggest complaints I hear about the VA healthcare services is communication. In my state of Alabama, we're very rural, and it's a huge problem. If confirmed, how will you work with the Secretary in utilizing the new technology that we have, for community service?
Thank you, sir. As you know, we talked a little bit about this when I met with you. Rural veterans who live in the rural area are somewhere between 60 and 66% of our veterans. And so reaching out and reaching to our veterans and partnering with not only the VSOs and our service organizations that are out there, but using our technology that we have with our communication strategy, our websites, and reaching out to folks with our provider network, with our community care partners, is something that I want to look into and work with you and partner on and look at the strategies. I'm not steeped into what strategies VHA is using since I'm not in the role, but once I'm in the role, I'd love to partner with you and bring back what we're doing specifically and figure out how we can best reach out to our rural networks.
Thank you. Mr. Workman, in your testimony, you highlighted the need for DOL vets to focus on outcomes and performances. If confirmed, how will you ensure veterans are not just a number, but instead placed in long-term quality jobs?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think when it comes to our veterans and when they're transitioning from that active status into veteran status, it is important for us to capture them as they're leaving the door in what we call the Transition Assistance Program. I believe a lot of folks are falling through the cracks and for whatever reason, not attending TAP or just not soaking it in. I think that's where it starts, is that last 6 months to a year before they leave active duty or reserve status. Once out into small, wherever they go in America, that's generally where we start to see issues. They lose that support network. That's where our American Job Centers come into play. We need to make sure that the folks out there are properly trained and doing what they need to do to take care of our transitioning veterans and their family members.
Thank you, Mr. Bartram. In May, the VA announced a policy change that would make it easier for veterans to access community care when a VA doctor determines it is in their best medical interests. What's your opinion on this announcement?
I thought it was the right announcement and it should have been done years ago. I believe that when a veteran and their doctor says they need to go to a referral on the outside, and they both agree with that is enough to send them to the outside to get referral.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. As you know, the federal government is very siloed, and agencies often don't communicate with each other. It seems like we can't get information from the DOD to the VA coordinated because all the systems are different. It's been a disaster since I've been here. We spent billions of dollars. We can't seem to do it. But if confirmed, how will you improve coordination across agencies to veterans and put them first?
Thank you for the question, Senator. If confirmed, you're 100% correct. We need to tighten up communications across the different departments and agencies. I feel like sometimes vets, Department of Labor vets, sometimes doesn't always have a seat at the table. And if confirmed, I can assure you that we will have a seat at the table with the DOD and also the VA so that we can better serve our veterans and their family members.
Are you aware of the problems that we've had from the DOD to all the information going from DOD to the veterans?
Yes, Senator. Yeah. I spent 10 or 11 years working at the VA. I've also worked for DOD in a civilian capacity, and I do know that it is a challenge. And like I said, if confirmed, we will have a seat at the table, and we look forward to working with our counterparts.
Mr. Bartram, you and I talked about this, about coinciding information. You can't get something done unless you get both sides, working together. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think we need to re-energize the sharing agreements of data and getting data across the system. I also think we have to do a better job of coordinating data across within VHA and VBA because that data needs to flow smoother. And so I think there's lots of opportunities to do data sharing within the department and within intergovernmental agencies.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator King?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In many of our hearings, we have very well-qualified candidates with terrific backgrounds. I don't think I've ever been in a hearing where we've had two people with the backgrounds that both of you have that's so impressive and important, the perspective that you'll bring to these jobs. So I want to start with that. I also want to start with the fact that all of us here are committed to the veteran community and to doing the best that we can. That doesn't mean we're going to agree, because I'm very concerned about the direction of the department. Mr. Bartram, let's talk about the contracts. There was a memo that came, an email from the department on July 3rd. VA will avoid a total of about $13.1 billion in cost by terminating or not reviewing 16,000 contracts. And then it goes on to say, I think one of the most preposterous statements I've seen, terminating or not reviewing these contracts will not negatively affect veteran care benefits or services. That's just hard for me to believe. And I've gone through, by the way, was it somebody's idea of a joke? Did you guys laugh about printing this so small that it's virtually impossible to read? Was that somebody's conscious decision, Mr. Bartram? This is an insult. This is the list.
Yeah, sir, I had nothing to do with how the list came over or where it was at, but we can look into that and get you.
It would be nice to print it. Paper is cheap, as my father used to say, and print it in a way that we can read it. But I've done a little examination. This is full of contracts for nursing services, nursing home services. You mentioned prosthetics. There are probably a dozen prosthetics contracts that are being canceled. It's just hard for me to believe that all of these are unnecessary contracts, $13 billion worth of contracts. And what worries me is there seems to be a pattern developing of ready, fire, aim in the Veterans Affairs. You started with, first the hiring freeze applied to everybody. Then, oh no, it doesn't apply to medical people. That was a good decision, but it shouldn't have been, it was a decision that should have been made in the first place. Then it was 83,000 people are going to be fired by the end of this year. Now it's 30,000, not fired, but we're going to downsize by 30,000. And I just wonder if, upon review, I can't believe that all 16,000 of these contracts are, and then the email, of course, lists 3 or 4 ones that we would all say, okay, those probably aren't necessary. But prosthetics contracts, nursing home contracts, it really bothers me. And Mr. Bartram, you mentioned we don't have a good staffing model, and that may well be true. But I think you should start with a staffing model and then decide what the right size of the staff is, not start with 30,000, or a month ago it was 83,000, and work backwards. Do you see what I'm saying? Analyze the staff, do the staffing model, determine what you need, and then make those decisions instead of starting with what amounts to a quota and sort of reverse engineering. Give me some thoughts about that.
So, Senator King, I don't disagree with the way that using analytics and using analytics to determine what you need for staffing and building to the staffing, which is why my earlier comment was I really want to work on what is our staffing and what our staffing should be. On your question about the contracts, a lot of those, we also found that we had multiple contracts in multiple areas for similar things, and that we could also consolidate into more regional and national contracts. And so where you see some contracts that may be terminated on the list, there may be additional contracts that were expanded out or scope changed so that you could renegotiate it into a regional contract, and because you had the same contractor in some cases providing service in certain areas.
It's hard
So-
for me to believe that in the time we've had in the last few months, that this list of 16,000 contracts has had the kind of careful review that will, I will predict that a month or two from now, there's going to be another memo saying, well, there's a bunch of contracts we aren't going to cut or eliminate. And I would want to see more planning before the decisions are made that could so significantly affect veterans' care. Mr. Workman, I love what you said. I think transition is the key. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I said 10 years ago, the Defense Department should spend as much money on transition out as they do on recruiting in. And I've been working with Armed Services and others on, for example, having VSOs involved in the TAP program, letting veterans pre-enroll for VA health care before they leave active duty, providing the veterans' data to their state Veterans Administration when they leave so they can be contacted. So I look forward to working with you. I hope you think those are worthwhile initiatives.
Absolutely, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time.
Senator Sheehy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll agree with Senator King's comments that, you know, we all care about the veterans here. We may not always agree. And, you know, in the last 5 years, our veteran VA budget has increased by 70%, over 70%. VA employee headcount's increased by 28%. Our veteran population in the country has gone down by over 9%. And yet, as you pointed out, General Bartram, veteran suicide has gone up. Patient wait times have gone up. Call wait times have gone up. Our contract for the veteran healthcare electronic health records is what, over a decade over schedule now and billions over budget. So all these contracts that are being canceled, I can very much believe that we're not seeing impact in medical care because it seems like the more contracts we issue, the more money we spend, and the more people we're hiring, the quality of the care and our ability to deliver it is actually decreasing. And our ability to interface with community care and allow our veterans to interact with their community's health care that's already there is the best and fastest and cheapest way for us to make sure that if a veteran is in need, a mental health care crisis in rural Montana, when they're hours from a VA hospital, the quickest, best, and cheapest and most effective way for them to get the care they need is not to wait on a phone line for hours on end, not to wait 3+ weeks to get an appointment booked, but to be able to go that day, that minute, to a local care center where they can get what they need. And what we've seen is intentional obstruction for years of the ability for veterans to actually access community care, and that obstructions come from within the VA. Not everybody, not every single person, but there's no question there's been organized, organizational obstruction to accessing private community care for veterans. And in a state like Montana, where we have almost 10% of our state are veterans, in a frontier healthcare market, not just rural healthcare, frontier healthcare, to assume that we can build a clinic close enough to every veteran and make sure they have the access in a time of urgent emergency need is fantasy. It is fantasy. They have to be able to access community care, and there's been an intentional obstruction of that within the agency. And the more money we spend and the more contracts we issue and the more people we hire are not solving the problem. It's not. So are we going to solve the problem or are we going to create jobs? And for me, I'm about mission. Having served in combat like Jeremiah and yourself, I'm worried about what's good for the veterans. And I believe Senator King and everyone else is too. We may not agree, but the data does not lie. And the data shows that despite hiring tens of thousands of extra employees and spending billions and billions upon billions of more money on contracts and people and buildings and brick and mortar, it hasn't improved the situation. So I applaud the efforts of Secretary Collins. Have they been perfect? No. Changing a massive organization is never going to be easy or fast. We're going to make mistakes, but something has to change. The trajectory of how we're dealing with our veteran care model has to change. And this administration is changing that, and I support it. So I thank you for your efforts at doing so. It's hard to change something like this without making some mistakes, and you're going to make enemies. But you've taken a big risk in doing it, and I appreciate it. So that's most of my time. But I will, in the vein of my questions, ask a couple of things specifically to Mr. Workman, since you've been getting all the attention so far. I'll give you a break. Transition assistance, you talked about it. You've done it yourself. I've done it. It's a challenging thing to do. What are you going to do specifically with the TAP program, or I should say Transition Assistance Program with TAP, to make sure that we are building a more sturdy bridge for our veterans as they transition so they can have ready-made careers when they get out?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think it starts, it needs to start a little earlier in the transition process. As you know, a lot of junior folks, when they are making that transition, the last thing sometimes between them and a DD 214 is that check in the box that they went through TAP class. We need to put emphasis on it and make sure the commanders are holding their troops accountable and ensuring that they are attending TAP to begin with. But if confirmed, and I get to DOL vets, we need to take a look at it from the top to the bottom, and there's absolutely room to improve the process. Like I said, I think we need to make sure that we have a seat at the table with the DOD and the VA as we all administer TAP. And I look forward, like I said, if confirmed, to taking a look at it and seeing what we can do to ensure that we can give veterans and their family members good paying jobs when they leave the military, jobs that when they wake up in the morning, they feel good about what they're doing and they can take care of their family. That's what we're going to do.
Senator Hassan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and to both of our nominees. First, thank you and your families for your service, and congratulations on your nominations, and a special thanks to the families, because you both stepping up to do this work will be a test for them as well, and we're very, very grateful to you. And as Senator King and Senator Sheehy just said, we are all united here in serving veterans. And Mr. Workman, you and I talked about, my dad served in World War II, your grandfather, and that was a really good discussion. And as I said, my father, having survived the Battle of the Bulge, I never heard him complain about a thing afterwards. Just a remarkable member of the greatest generation. But I also just want to address, Senator Sheehy and I would agree that community care is important. New Hampshire is the only state in the contiguous U.S. that doesn't have its own VA hospital, so community care has been very important. I would also say that some of the statistics that Senator Sheehy was talking about happened during the time when we passed and instituted the PACT Act. So there are a lot more people coming into the VA for health care. It was a big surge, and we still have work to do to implement the PACT Act effectively. And I'm also concerned because our community care in New Hampshire and across the country is also struggling. So to suggest that just by referring veterans to our community civilian healthcare system is going to solve their access to care problem, I think ignores the challenges that our community system, our civilian system, is going to have, especially in light of the reconciliation bill, the big, beautiful bill that is what President Trump calls it. That's going to strain our rural care even more. So I want us to all think about that in that context. I want us all to think about Senator King's concern about the way these contracts were canceled. It's just, the way I think about it is, good carpenters measure twice and cut once. And it seems to me that the VA went about this backwards. So I'll get to my questions now, but I just wanted to kind of level set us a little bit as I listen to the exchanges we've been going on. I am asking every nominee these days a straightforward question, and I'll start with you, Mr. Bartram, and then you, Mr. Workman. If directed by the President to take an action that would break the law, would you follow the law or follow the President's directive? Mr. Bartram.
I don't anticipate ever being asked to break the law, but I follow the law.
Thank you, and I should have said General Bartram.
That's okay,
Sorry,
ma'am.
Mr. Workman.
Likewise, I don't anticipate the president asking me to break the law, but I would always follow the law.
Well, I appreciate your commitment to following the law. I'd suggest that you review some of the things the President and his administration have done and consider the first part of your answer. Mr. Mr. Workman, I'd like to discuss an issue that I know we both care about a lot, ensuring that our nation fully supports the surviving families of our fallen heroes. I've been working with Senator Cassidy on a bipartisan bill that would help Gold Star and surviving spouses get employment assistance through DOL Vets, the office that you're nominated to lead. I'd like to work with you on this issue because I think we owe it to the families of the fallen to do everything that we can to support them and help them move forward. That's a debt we owe to those who sacrifice so much for our nation. Given your military experience, sir, can you talk to me about some of the sacrifices that military families make and the importance of supporting them, especially surviving spouses?
Yes, thank you for the question, Senator, and I do appreciate you taking that meeting with me. That was special to be able to look through that, your father's diary, and I appreciate that. But getting back to our Gold Star families, we owe these folks more than what, we owe them everything.
Yeah.
My wife Jessica is sitting right behind me. She could be the first one to tell you that staying at home while we are overseas doing our nation's work is, like I said in my opening statement, it's one of the toughest jobs in the military.
Yeah.
We owe these folks everything that we have to offer, and if confirmed, I look forward to working with your office and providing technical assistance with.
Well, thank you. That's what I was going to ask, if you'd commit to working with us on this bill, and I look forward to working with you on that, too. General Bartram, in May, the President issued an executive order requiring the Secretary of the VA to create an action plan to support a full-service medical center in New Hampshire so that we're no longer that only state in the contiguous U.S. without a full-service VA hospital. I have long supported bringing a full-service hospital to New Hampshire, and I want to make sure that the VA is engaging with Granite Staters at every step of the way. If confirmed to be the VA's Undersecretary for Health, how will you work with New Hampshire veterans and our congressional delegation as the VA creates its plan for a full-service hospital in New Hampshire?
Senator, I can certainly assure you that I will work with you and the state on that. We have already started a site survey process where we start the initial part of the site survey, and then that will, down the road, that will have a process where we engage with the state as we look at what we see as the need, capabilities, and capacities that are there, and to work with the state on what right looks like as we move forward.
Well, I appreciate that. We have, understandably, like I think probably in every state, a very active group of veterans in New Hampshire. As you both have commented, veterans never stop the mission to serve, and that's true in New Hampshire as it is everywhere else. And they really want to engage directly with the VA about how to make this a successful planning scenario. So thank you, sir.
Senator Hassan, thank you. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to each of you on your nominations. It was good to see the Secretary yesterday afternoon and to hear from him. Sounds like he is busy and working and making some positive changes, and we appreciate that. Mr. Bartram, I want to come to you. I'm a little confused over your statement regarding community care and want to get you to clarify your comments on that. Now, the chairman and I are both working on the community care issue. And when I talked to yesterday afternoon with the secretary, I know he is trying to simplify community care. But you made a comment that you need to balance direct care and community care. And I want you to drill down. What would that balance be, and why would you not say, let's prioritize what the vet wants, and if they want community care, let's make that more simple, a more simple process for them to access that care?
So, ma'am, I am saying that. If veterans want community care, we need to allow them to have community care. And when I say balance it, right now the bureaucracy is stacked against them.
Totally.
The bureaucracy is stacked against it. If I get confirmed, then I can work to help take out some of the bureaucracy. As a senior advisor, I'm very limited in what I can do. As the undersecretary, if I'm confirmed, then I can work to take out the bureaucracy that's there. But right, the best medical interest allows us to take out part of the bureaucracy. changing what the contracts are as we do the next generation of contracts allows us to take out part of the bureaucracy. Building in the infrastructure, we also need to allow that if a veteran chooses that they want to use the VA healthcare system, the direct care system, that they have that choice to use that direct healthcare system. So it's working with them on where do they want to get their care and making sure that it's not bureaucracy that's getting in the way. It's what they wanted, where they want to get their care that's
And that
best
they
for them.
can access it in the most efficient
Yes.
and effective way. Okay, I appreciate that because talking about balancing, I think made it sound like you were going to do a little bit over here and a little bit over there, but not prioritize the vet in making those decisions. And talking to most veterans in Tennessee, they much prefer having community care because we've got 63 rural hospitals in our state. We've got 260 rural clinics, and they would much prefer going to something in their community because it enables them to get a neighbor or a friend to drive them and drop them off, and somebody doesn't have to take off work for the day and get them to Nashville or Memphis. So this is an issue. We've got a lot of veterans in Tennessee, and this is an issue that comes up regularly as we meet with the VSOs and as we meet with veterans groups. And what they want is community care. They appreciate what the chairman has done. They are crazy about my bill, which would get rid of that bureaucracy and give them the choice, put them in the driver's seat. And when you meet with these veterans groups and you hear what they go through and how long they have to wait, it is embarrassing. And I know you all inherited a problem at a very broken VA. And the fact that you had people that were working in VA healthcare that worked 5 days out of a 10-day work period in person, and VA benefits where they worked 2 days out of 10 in person. You can't get your job done if you are not showing up to work. So we appreciate that, but I think it is important that you speak with clarity on these issues and that we know you're not going to go soft on community care because that is what the veterans are wanting to see expanded. So,
Thank you, ma'am. And just to be clear, we're working to put veterans first and veterans' choice first. And so community care is a primary focus, and we've got to get all of the bureaucracy out of the way so that the veteran has the choice. And as a veteran of 40 years myself and the son of a veteran, I can tell you that I will continue to work for veterans and listen to veterans because the why that I chose to take this nomination was those are my brothers and sisters. Those are the people that I've gone to battle with. They're my battle buddies. And those are the people that I'm here to serve. And so serve them I will.
great. And Mr. Workman, I'll send something to you for a QFR. The electronic health records in that transition that is there from active duty to veterans, I'll send it. I'm out of time, so I'll send that to you for written.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Blackburn, thank you. Committee, we have two senators that are present. At the end of those questioning, we're going to try to bring this hearing to a conclusion and make the vote at the very end. We have two votes, one of which has already started, so now it's Senator Hirono's time, and you may ask your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to both of you. I asked the following two initial questions of all nominees before any of the committees on which I sit, and so I will ask you these questions. We can start with Mr. Bartram and then Mr. Workman. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
For the vote.
No.
Mr. Workman? Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
Bartram? Mr.
No.
Workman?
No.
Okay. For Mr. Bartram, in April of 2025, VA awarded a 5-year contract for certain medical supplies to Bright Star Innovations, the company you formed and formerly led. Do you have any sort of ongoing financial stake in this company, in Bright Star?
No.
So the ethics agreement that you signed in accordance with your nomination to this role indicated you would not participate personally or substantially in matters involving Bright Star for 1 year, beginning with your resignation from the company in January of 2025. Particularly given your role in other contract-related matters in the department, did you participate personally or substantially in awarding Bright Star the April 2025 contract?
No, I have no knowledge that they even have a contract.
So you can see, well, by the way, was this contract with Bright Star the first contract that Bright Star received from the VA?
When I was at when I ran Bright Star, we had no contracts with
I'm
the
sorry,
VA.
can't hear you.
No, we had no contracts when I was at Bright Star with the VA, so
Okay.
as far as I know, it must be their first.
So I think that you can understand why I would ask these questions, because the fact that this is the very first contract that Bright Star got and you happen to just leave Bright Star and join the VA, you can see where certain questions like those that I asked would arise. Again, for you, it's important for any person serving the role of the Undersecretary of Health to understand that reducing veteran suicide, and you've already been asked by another member of this committee, the importance of paying attention to veteran suicides, which unfortunately is a continuing challenge. So it is a priority for many of us in this committee, and we recently had a hearing on the Veterans Crisis Line, and given this administration's decision to fire VCL staff seemingly without regard to the impact it would have, can you reassure me that under your purview, there will be no cuts to staffing or funding and no reorganizational decisions that limit access to VCL for veterans and others served by it?
So I can assure you that while suicide has no single cause, it has lots of supporters to prevent it, like yourself and me and the secretary and the president. And so we will do what we can to ensure that we continue to support the Veterans Crisis Line and to ensure the veterans have access to the Veterans Crisis Line when they need it and however they need it.
So was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, because please know that for a lot of young people, the awareness that the hotline or there were some funding cuts to veterans' access to suicide prevention programs is a matter of major concern for them. Now, when Secretary Collins was before our committee, I asked him with regard to pausing of certain programs, including veterans' participation in clinical trials. And if you're a veteran participating in a clinical trial and suddenly those programs or trials are put on pause and with no idea when you're going to be able to access whatever drugs are being provided or access to medical care under the clinical trials, I asked them, well, what clinical trials, how many veterans are involved in participating in these clinical trials? He said he would get back to me. So far, not. So I'm asking you for this information. Do you have it?
I don't have the number of veterans who are involved in clinical trials, but I will get back to you with that for the record. But what I can say is that no clinical trials have been paused, and we have exempted from the hiring freeze all folks who work in the
So
clinical
did you say
research.
that no clinical trials are on pause?
That's my understanding.
No? So that would have been good if the secretary has said, oh, by the way, we're done with the pause and all of the veterans who are in these trials are getting the services, the medical care, and the medications that they need. That's your testimony, that they are all resumed in their clinical trials.
Yeah, my understanding is that we have not paused, we do not have any paused clinical trials due to hiring freezes or exemptions. We've exempted those individuals.
Then perhaps you could give me the number of veterans who are involved and participating in these clinical trials that are no longer on pause. What would, in all of the clinical trials, I would like to have that information, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Can you get us that?
Yeah, we'll get back to you. For the record, yes.
Okay.
Let me use this as an opportunity to indicate we're always looking for the VA to be much more prompt, and we've had significant challenges in getting information that committee members, but also this committee has specifically asked from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I don't know, it may apply to the Department of Labor too from time to time, but it would be greatly appreciated if you and those that you work with would be more forthcoming more quickly.
We will, sir.
Thank you. Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be quick. Number one, Mr. Bartram, you're going to most likely get confirmed, and you're going to most likely come to several oversight hearings that are going to ask you how your work on this secret mission to completely privatize the VA is going. It's a narrative that's been here. I've been here 10 years, and I think anybody in their right mind needs to know it makes no sense to be 100% brick and mortar, nor does it make any sense for the reasons that you've said to be pure community care. The VA can point to several best practices and several instances in several communities that they need to be there. And I, for one, believe that you've answered the questions to my satisfaction. I don't think anybody who knows anything about the organization would come to any other conclusion. Mr. Workman, I've got a chiropractor named Bender, an optometrist named Eiler, and a dentist named White. So Workman going for Assistant Secretary for Labor just makes sense to me.
Yes, sir.
Look, here's another thing that we've talked about for a year, and congratulations to your family. Are those your kids behind you there?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations to you and Mr. Bartram, too. For 10 years I've been here, we've talked about we need to fix the TAP program. And for 10 years, I've said that what we need to do is have the right analytics coming out of the DOD, and we will be successful when we have a TAP classroom of one. The problem that you have now, if you go into the transition assistance program, you got some of the more senior people that may have, financial sort of literacy at a different level than you're going to have some kid just coming out. They may have their earbuds in or, watching something on their phone while they're punching the ticket to go through TAP. We all know that happens. It's a disservice to those kids to put them in the same classroom for someone else punching the ticket. Do you know whether or not there's any sort of incentive or back review on the extent to which that TAP program has been proven beneficial to the students? In other words, some way to measure in an after action whether or not that TAP program, and the instructors for that matter, are held up to a standard on efficacy and ultimate result for the TAP program?
Well, Senator, I thank you for the question. I have not been in vets down at the Department of Labor. I can assure you, if confirmed and I get into vets, we are going to take a look at that.
My guess is the answer is no. And I came from large organizations where metrics matter. And my guess is the way that we're finally going to get a TAP program that makes sense and does right by our warriors or veterans is to just focus on that. Have that as a goal. I know it will take time. It will take years. It will not be completed in your tenure. But I'm really tired of people talking about it. And I think if we're intellectually honest with ourselves, it's been a bipartisan failure to substantially change the TAP program since you went through it.
Absolutely.
And we owe our service members more, and we need to be instructed by information coming out of the electronic health record and everything else in the DOD to do right by them. What I want to do, you're about the only thing I saw in your resume that I'd like to spend some more time on, and we're not going to do it here. But I'd like your commitment to talk a little bit about this large organization, if you're confirmed, that you're going to inherit. And you've got a great resume. As a matter of fact, about the only lapse in judgment that I've seen in your resume is you trying to run for lieutenant governor in Ohio a while back. But other than that, you look pretty solid. You're clearly a patriot. But I'd like to, if I can, just get a commitment. Maybe we can get on a phone call, or if you can come over to my office. I didn't get an opportunity to talk with you in advance, to just get your sense of the people that are going to be around you that will have that large organization expertise that you're going to need. And then maybe you can convince me that that maybe you have some relevant experience. I don't expect the President of the United States or you to be a subject matter expert in the organization that you're inheriting, but you need to have the apparatus in place to understand the level of complexity and the challenges you're going to have as a manager, having nothing to do with you being a warfighter or a veteran. Can I get that commitment to just follow up
Absolutely,
with
Senator.
you? What we'll share with you is our assessment that I've read on areas. We'll share bluntly the assessment that we've read confidentially between us, and we can have a good discussion on it.
Absolutely.
I look forward to having that discussion. I thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Tillis, thank you. Both of you gentlemen, a lot of what I know about veterans is what I hear from them. A lot of what we respond to is what we call casework, in which a veteran has brought to us a problem they're having with the VA. And I want to just highlight the importance of your ability to help us solve that veteran's problem. But I want to take that a step further. Often I'm successful in getting the VA to respond to a specific case that we bring to their attention, but I'm quite certain that in many instances, it's not a one-place circumstance. And so it's nice to solve a problem for a veteran. It would be better to solve the problem for that veteran and every other veteran that's experiencing something similar from the VA. And in addition to that, often I'm told that something has changed at the Department of Veterans Affairs, but when I'm back in Kansas, no one at the VA knows what I've been told. So there's a lot of disconnect between something that is decided here as a policy and it being not only not implemented, but not even known that the policy has changed. I assume that you would confirm to me that in the things I've just described, you will be an ally in making certain that an individual, but all veterans are cared for when we raise these topics, and you'll take greater steps than have occurred in the past to make sure that the people who work at the VA know what the new rules and policies are.
Sir, as we talked before about this topic, I can assure you I will be on the front line on that fight with you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bartram, I'm going to put you to the test already. We're working with the ranking member, Senator Blumenthal, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Congressional Budget Office to move my community care bill, the Access Act. And we're working on a CBO score. That requires some information from the VA that my understanding is the VA has. We need the VA to provide additional clarification information to CBO on that bill, and we're particularly talking about Section 103. I don't know what the delay has been, but I'm asking you to commit to make sure the VA delivers that information ASAP, but no later than tomorrow. Would you take this task back and see if we can get that information so we can move forward with this Access Act?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything that either one of you would like to add to what you said, or any of your responses that deserve any clarification? Or, all right. Well, we thank you both for being here. Thank you for your service in particular. Any member of this committee who would like to send questions for the record to one of the nominees or both of the nominees should do so as soon as possible, but no later than the close of business tomorrow. And then we would we would expect and appreciate a timely response to our committee members' questions so that your nominations can be fully considered. With that, the hearing is adjourned.